Have you ever stared at a problem in your life that was so big, so intimidating, that it completely paralyzed you? Maybe it's a financial crisis, a terrifying medical diagnosis, or a broken relationship that seems impossible to fix. We all have giants. And when they stand in front of us, shouting their threats, it's so easy to feel small, weak, and entirely alone. But what if your giant isn't there to destroy you? I remember when I faced a giant that almost took me out completely. A few years ago, I lost my job unexpectedly. It wasn't just a job. It was my security, my identity, and my way of providing for my family. For weeks, I woke up every single morning with this crushing weight on my chest. The giant of anxiety was standing right in my living room, mocking me, telling me I was a failure and that we were going to lose everything. I tried to fight it with my own strength. I sent out hundreds of resumes. I networked with everyone I knew. I stressed myself into sleepless nights pacing the floor. But the giant just kept getting bigger and louder. The more I looked at the problem, the smaller my faith became. I felt exactly like the Israelite army hiding in the trenches, terrified of what tomorrow would bring. It wasn't until I stopped looking at the size of my unemployment and started looking at the size of my God that things began to shift. I had to learn the hard way that you can't defeat a spiritual giant with physical weapons. You need something much deeper. That brings us to the first truth we need to understand about facing our giants. The battle belongs to the Lord, but the preparation happens in the pasture. In 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 34, David tells King Saul, "Your servant used to keep his father's sheep, and when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb out of the flock, I went out after it and struck it, and delivered the lamb from its mouth." You see, David didn't just wake up one morning, walk onto a battlefield, and decide to fight a 9-foot-tall warrior. His courage wasn't accidental. It was forged in the quiet, unseen moments of his life. When no one was watching, David was learning how to trust God with the lions and the bears. Think about your own life for a moment. What are the lions and bears you're facing right now? Maybe it's a daily struggle with patience, a minor financial setback, or a conflict at work. We often complain about these everyday struggles, wishing God would just take them away. But what if those exact struggles are the training ground for your ultimate victory? God uses the unseen battles to build the spiritual muscle you're going to need for the giant standing in your future. If David had run from the bear, he never would have had the faith to face Goliath. Don't despise the small trials you're walking through today. They're the very things God is using to prepare you for your breakthrough tomorrow. The second truth we have to grasp is that you can't fight your giant in someone else's armor. When David finally convinced King Saul to let him fight, Saul tried to put his own royal armor on the young shepherd boy. 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 39 says, "David fastened his sword to his armor and tried to walk, for he had not tested them. And David said to Saul, 'I cannot walk with these, for I have not tested them.' So David took them off." This is such a profound moment. Saul was trying to give David conventional wisdom. He was saying, "This is how we've always fought battles. This is what works. You need to look like a soldier if you want to win." But David knew that stepping into someone else's identity would only weigh him down. How often do we do exactly the same thing? When we face a massive crisis, we immediately look at how someone else handled it. We read the self-help books, we try to copy the success routines of millionaires, or we put on the armor of bitterness and anger because that's how the world tells us to fight back. But God didn't design you to fight like the rest of the world. He gave David a sling and 5 smooth stones because David knew how to use them. God has given you unique gifts, a unique personality, and a unique testimony. You don't need to pretend to be someone you aren't to win this battle. You just need to be authentically you, fully surrendered to Him. The third and most powerful truth is this: the giant isn't falling because of your strength, but because of what you're speaking into the atmosphere. This is where the story reaches its climax. Goliath is cursing David by his gods, mocking this little shepherd boy. But David doesn't cower, and he doesn't stay silent. In 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 45, David shouts back, "You come to me with a sword, with a spear, and with a javelin. But I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied." Notice what David did here. He didn't deny the reality of the giant's weapons. He acknowledged the sword and the spear. But he immediately magnified the name of his God above the threat of his enemy. This changes absolutely everything. When you're facing your giant, that cancer diagnosis, that threat of divorce, that crippling depression, what are you saying to it? Are you agreeing with the giant's threats? Are you constantly talking about how big your problem is, how impossible the situation looks, and how you're probably going to fail and lose everything? Words have power. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. You have to start speaking the name of Jesus over your situation. You have to look at that mountain of debt and say, "You come at me with